Matt Armstrong's garage isn't just a collection of cars. It is a graveyard for wrecked exotics that somehow come back to life. From flood-damaged Range Rovers to millionaire supercars that met their untimely demise, Matt has taken on some of the craziest rebuilds on YouTube. And today we're diving into part 2 of his ever-growing collection, featuring everything from a smashed AMG reborn as a Black Series beast to Marcus Rashford's wrecked Rolls-Royce now worth over £300,000 again. Let's get into it. In the last video, we introduced one of Matt Armstrong's most insane rebuild projects yet, his BMW M3 that had, let's just say, a rough start in life after crashing into a house. Yeah, not exactly the kind of homecoming you want for a performance car. But as we all know, Matt loves a challenge, and this M3 has been getting some serious love in the workshop. So, where are we now? Well, the rebuild has been nothing short of extensive. The car had severe front end, rear end, and interior damage. And before diving headfirst into repairs, Matt had an expert take a look. The verdict? It was salvageable, which was all the confirmation he needed to get started. Fixing up the front end meant replacing the bonnet, hinges, pedestrian protection system, front wings, bumper, and headlights. To keep the costs down, a lot of parts, like the radiator pack, were sourced from a breaker's yard, and in true Matt fashion, there were some unexpected hiccups along the way. The headlights, for example, refused to work at first, but swapping the ballast from the original units brought them back to life. But of course, this wouldn't be a Matt Armstrong build without some modifications. He added yellow DRLs for that aggressive look and fitted an aftermarket Adro front bumper, instantly giving the M3 a more menacing stance. Oh, and those carbon fiber strut braces? Yep, another upgrade, ditching the factory ones for a cleaner finish. Now, moving to the back, it wasn't just a simple bolt-on fix. The team had to pull out the damaged panels using hydraulic tools before replacing the quarter panel. The rear suspension needed a new trailing arm to sort out alignment issues, and inside, the airbags had all deployed, so the entire dashboard had to be replaced. Even the seat belts had to be sent out for resetting. One of the biggest challenges, the cooling system. If you know BMWs, you know their bleeding procedure is a nightmare, but Matt tackled it head-on with a vacuum fill system to ensure no air pockets remained. So what's the damage to the wallet? The rebuild so far has cost around £37,750, but once fully restored, the car's expected to be worth £60,000, which isn't bad considering where it started. Up next, the rear quarter panel is the final major hurdle before this M3 is fully reborn, but Matt's collection obviously doesn't stop there. The next one is the most luxurious rebuild Matt Armstrong has ever attempted. Marcus Rashford's wrecked Rolls-Royce Wraith Masonry Black badge. Yeah, you heard that right. A £700,000 ultra-expensive luxury coupe, written off after a nasty collision and now brought back to life after 6 months of blood, sweat, and an eye-watering amount of cash. Matt picked up this totaled Wraith at auction for £184,000 back in March of 2024, and right away it was clear that this wasn't going to be a simple fix. The left side was completely wrecked, and since this wasn't just any Wraith but a Mansory edition, finding parts was a nightmare. Rolls-Royce isn't exactly known for selling spare bits off the shelf, so Matt had to go all out, even buying a second Rolls-Royce for £90,000 just for parts. Now, here's where things get interesting. Rashford himself actually helped Matt out with finding and sourcing some of the parts, which is pretty wild considering how most people would have just let the car go, but Matt, nope, he was all in. Fixing the interior alone was a project within a project. The stunning blue seats, carpets, and lighting set him back £35,000. And if that wasn't enough, countless electrical issues meant his dad had to spend hours sorting the wiring, especially on the left door. And in true Armstrong fashion, when the boot refused to lock properly, they literally had to bash it with a hammer, because apparently even a Rolls-Royce isn't safe from a little brute force engineering. If it works, it works. And then came the fun part, the bodywork. Just one side skirt cost £7,000, plus an additional $2,500 for a forged carbon fiber topping. The Mansory exhaust system, that was another £4,600 with additional custom exhaust work, bringing the total cost to £7,100. And let's not forget the back rear bumper, bringing the total rear end repairs to £20,000, $700 of which was just for the black paint. And because it's a Rolls-Royce, even the suspension was a mission. It took an hour to just inflate and deflate the wheels to get them sitting perfectly, followed by another hour of coding just to get it working as intended. By the end of the rebuild, Matt took the car for a drive. Yes, it is finally roadworthy, but teased that he had more plans for it. The final price tag for this build, a jaw-dropping £324,000. Was it worth it? Well, if there's one thing we know about Matt, it's that he loves a challenge, and this Wraith is easily one of his craziest projects yet. Now, if you thought the Rolls-Royce Wraith was a challenge, wait until you hear about Matt's Range Rover Vogue, because this one started out as a literal swamp monster. When it arrived, this thing was completely wrecked by flood damage. We're talking about waterlogged electronics, a ruined interior, and an engine that was, well, for lack of a better word, drowned. Most people would have walked away, but Matt saw potential, or at least a challenge worth doing. First step, stripping the entire interior down to bare metal. Everything had to go, soaked leather seats, carpets, and every piece of electronic wiring that got short-circuited. Once the shell was completely out, it was time to bring it back to life with fresh seats, new carpets, and miles of replacement wiring. The engine was another beast entirely. The 3-liter V6 diesel, pushing 258 horsepower and 443 pound-feet of torque, needed a complete rebuild, along with servicing the drivetrain to undo all the flood-related damage. This wasn't just a cosmetic refresh, it was full-on automotive CPR. And after all that work, the Range Rover transformed from a total disaster into a fully functional luxury SUV. This thing went from being a write-off to gliding down the road like nothing ever happened. A true testament to Matt's commitment to taking on some of the toughest restoration projects out there. Now, let's talk about one of the most brutal sounding builds in Matt's collection, the 2010 Mercedes C63 AMG. Now, this isn't just any C63, of course. It's a full-on AMG Black Series transformation, and it started as a non-runner. Matt picked up this W204 C63 earlier this year in typical Matt Armstrong fashion, wrecked and in desperate need of love. But as he quickly found out, this build was one of the most challenging yet, not because of the damage, but because AMG parts are insanely expensive. Still, he wasn't about to back down. Over time, he's rebuilt the car and fitted a full AMG Black Series body kit, giving it that aggressive, wide-body stance that makes these cars look absolutely menacing. But here is the best part. Once this thing's fully completed, Matt will have himself one of the most legendary AMGs ever built. A naturally aspirated 6.2-liter V8 monster, known for its earth-shaking exhaust note and pure, unfiltered performance.
Here we go!
From bargain bin dream cars to supercars that should have been scrap, Matt Armstrong continues to prove that no car is ever truly dead, at least not in his hands. Whether it's a 184-pound wrecked Rolls-Royce or a flooded Range Rover that looked beyond saving, his builds always come with insane challenges, massive risks, and even bigger payoffs.